Hi all. Well, I've just not long ago finished watching Doctor Who Series 13, Episode 4, Village of the Angels. I'd say, personally, I think this episode was not too bad, actually. It was good. I have some reservations, simply because of the continuation of the Timeless Child bullshit, and leaning more and more into that. But as a standalone episode, if you ignore all the extraneous stuff, it's actually not too bad. It's quite good. So we left the Doctor in the previous episode where a weeping angel had miraculously somehow got onto Yaz's phone. Don't know how that happened. The wonders of powers that exist to fulfill the script. And it took over the TARDIS. And oh no, what are we going to do? So the episode starts with Yaz, Dan and the Doctor standing in the doorway saying, look at the angel. The lights in the TARDIS are flickering on and off so the angel can move because, hey, script. And then the Doctor finds a MacGuffin to stop the angel and kick it out of the TARDIS because it's one of those typical Doctor Who, certainly this era of Doctor Who MacGuffins, well, certainly this series of Doctor Who MacGuffins. I mean, at least this time they actually bothered to explain it. So they leave the TARDIS, they find out they're in a village. There's kind of lots of weirdness going on in the village, and obviously this is where the weeping angels are. The Doctor's not sure whether they're somewhere where they landed by accident, where the angel wanted to take them. They go outside anyway. Turns out there's a little girl missing, and the Doctor's shocker, the Doctor's sonic screwdriver suddenly starts going crazy, and she wafts it around like a lunatic and runs off, and leaves the others to look for the little girl, Peggy. Yaz actually starts using some of her police training and starts asking questions, and obviously there's a belligerent man in it because that's just this era of Doctor Who. Men are belligerent or stupid. It's just one of those things. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with belligerent men in the episodes. There are such things as belligerent men in the 1960s. I'm sure there was plenty of them around. However, it's just a trope. It's just every time. So they go off to look into a field. There's a weeping angel there. They try and not blink and they get zapped back in time. Meanwhile, the Doctor runs off, finds what the source is, and the source is Claire. Claire has been experimented on. Well, experiment is a harsh word. Being tested by a chap called Professor Jericho. And he's interested in kind of psychic phenomenon. And Claire's been obviously predicting things from the future because she's from the future, although it all seems a little confused. She doesn't quite seem to know who she is. The Doctor recognises her. Initially she finds a drawing of a weeping angel, which is one of the things that Claire drew. And she recognises Claire, and Claire's kind of a little confused at the moment. Claire dashes off because she's kind of having weird premonitions. She goes upstairs and then she sees a vision of herself with the weeping angel's wings. Then the Professor opens the door because, he's what's going on. Opens the door and there's just loads of weeping angels standing there. And the Doctor panics. The reaction is like something from a 1920s silent film. It's so over the top from the Doctor. I think that maybe it's those little things that undermine her authority. It's the overreaction, the kind of almost cartoony overreaction. And I know it's been there to some degree in the past, but it just seems so ludicrous the way she reacts to things. Gets them to lock all the doors, sets up a little camera so she can film them. Meanwhile, Claire's returned and some stone dust, I suppose, starts coming out of her eye. They all retire downstairs with the weeping angels banging on the doors to get in. The Doctor has set up a camera, she gets a TV and she sets it up so they can watch the weeping angels. And then she wants to go into Claire's head. There's a nice little bit where the picture of the weeping angel she tore up starts to reform and actually projects itself as a weeping angel. The Doctor screws up the paper that it's drawn on and you get quite a nice effect of the angel crumpling. Then she sets fire to it and then you get a flaming angel, and that was just quite a cool image. Then the Doctor goes into Claire's mind and it turns out that there's a weeping angel in her head, and the weeping angel is hiding from the other weeping angels because the weeping angels are from the Division, and this one's from the Division as well, and this one knows all about the Doctor's past and can tell her about everything that happened to her in the past, which is pretty convenient that this weeping angel knows everything, because we're talking about approximately 1 billion years worth of knowledge, given that the Doctor has been around since the beginning of the Time Lords, and that's been 1 billion years. So even if it's a situation where the weeping angels could live that long, how would they have the memory for that much information? The professor has to break them out of it because the angels start breaking into the cellar where they are. They find a way out of the back. Turns out there's a magical escape route which just suddenly appears out of nowhere. The old MacGuffin escape route again. They run through the escape route, angels all around them. Claire manages to get out. The professor gets zapped back in time. I'll come on to the past thing in a second. And then the doctor gets out, suddenly realises the angel behind her aren't chasing her anymore, steps out, and there's suddenly angels everywhere. Going to just take a break from that for a second. Meanwhile, Yaz and Dan zapped back to, I think it was 1901. And apparently what happened is everyone in the village has disappeared twice. First time in 1960, whatever it is, and previously in 1901. And obviously what's happening is that people are being zapped back. So Dan and Yaz are zapped back. There's nobody else there, but then they find the little girl Peggy who was missing. And she says the angels are talking to her and that they're going to protect her and they don't want to do any harm. She shows Yaz and Dan that the village is just surrounded by space. It's quite a cool little visual. The space around them is encroaching on the village, almost guiding them to a particular place. The grumpy old man and his wife, who were Peggy's great uncle, I think, had been zapped back to the same point. They suddenly turn up. He's shouting, mouthing off like an idiot again. You know, his belligerence means he ignores everything they say, and he and his wife get killed by the angel. Peggy leads them to a stone monolith. And this stone monolith, part of it is right in front of them, there's a barrier. And behind the barrier, it's dark. And obviously, pretty quick to figure out. The side of the barrier they're at is 1901. The other side is 1960s. And earlier in the show, an old woman had appeared. And anybody who's got half an ounce of intelligence figured out pretty much that that was Peggy as an older woman, which is basic. She turns up and then starts explaining that this stone is where the angels come from and that apparently the whole place is quantum locked. And the idea is it's because the angels have set a trap. They are quantum locking the whole village so that they can catch the angel. Fast forward a few seconds, old Peggy disappears. Don't know what happens to her, she just kind of vanishes. The professor appears with Yaz, Dan and Peggy. Then the doctor runs out of the pathway and it actually leads right to the stones. She comes out of the stones. There are Yaz, Dan, the professor and Peggy in front of her in 1901. Here she is in the 1960s and hordes of angels behind her. And it turns out that what's happened is that the angel that's trapped inside Claire. Oh, by the way, quick recap. The angel that's trapped inside Claire, or rather has chosen to hide inside Claire, is the same angel who piloted the TARDIS. Yeah, bollocks. Just bollocks. Basically, that angel has made a deal with the other angels that instead of them taking it back, they'll take the Doctor back to the division. She basically says, Doctor, you've been recalled. And the Doctor turns into a weeping angel, although still stays Doctor-like. And that was it, cliffhanger. Interwoven within that is Belle again. She ends up on a planet, which is where she was supposed to be having a honeymoon with Vinda. She meets a man who tells her that they're going to a place where people will take them somewhere safe to another dimension. She goes with him, discovers that it's actually Azure, who she doesn't know. And then a passenger turns up. She realises the passengers are actually a prison, not a transportation to a safe place. So she gets this bloke and takes him away. And then she says, I'm going to leave back in my ship again. As the end credits starts, there's a break in the music. Vinda turns up on the same planet, finds the man, because, you know, it's a planet. It's a massive planet. And somehow he manages to find the one person still on the planet. And it happens to be the one person who met Belle. But coincidences in TV shows, sci-fi, etc., they're kind of standard really, so it's not a big deal. He tells him Belle saved his life, shows him a little holographic message that she's recorded where she sort of says that she's going to try and find out where these people are, where the passenger is. End of. I say, overall, I think it was quite good. The tension of the weeping angels and the suspense was really well held. The mystery was quite nicely tied up. Claire was good again. The performance by Kevin McNally as Professor Jericho I thought was great, and there's a moment where he kind of refers to the fact that he was kind of one of the soldiers who freed Belson which I thought was a nice little moment. And it was he had such an indomitable spirit. It was really a really nicely developed character. I say the suspense, the advancing angels, the kind of the usual tension we get with the angels was good. And there was a general sense of eeriness that was quite well established. So the story with the angels was good. And there were moments where Jodie was more doctorish, but then she kind of falls into cartoon. And it's those minutes that kind of break any tension straight away. And that's kind of frustrating. Because I guess you could say we got a glimpse of what could have been. Who knows if she'd actually bothered to pay attention to who the Doctor was, done her research, bothered watching enough of the previous episodes to actually understand it, instead of thinking, oh, it's not for me, I'm not going to watch it, let's take it out of the male gaze and all that sort of bullshit. I mean, it's pretty good. 3 series in and she finally has an episode where in part she's more of a Doctor. I mean, that's a pretty good going, considering that I think Eccleston, Tennant, Matt Smith and Capaldi did it all in their first episode, but hey, it took her a while. But again, always undermined by the goofy stupidity and the abject stupidity of this Doctor. It's always let down really by the Weeping Angels, in a sense that you can't stop them, you can't do anything about them, you know. It's kind of one of the reasons why I tend to think that Blink should have been the only use of the Weeping Angels, because other than extreme situations like on the Byzantium where the Doctor had a solution, there isn't really any grounded way to beat them. There's no, the Weeping Angels as it is are pretty much unstoppable. Really, all you can do is stare at them, not blink, and they're always going to get you because they're just never going to move. And if they want you, they'll get you. This has happened previously. They seem to change as the script requires. And this has happened with a lot of characters in this series and the bad guys. You know, Azure and Swarm both have powers that are appropriate to the moment. And the angels have powers that are appropriate to the moment. You know, suddenly an angel kind of hiding in somebody. The angel in the Byzantium episodes was possessing Amy. This one was hiding in Claire. There's the moment where the Doctor's talking to the angel in Claire's mind, and the Doctor literally repeats what we've just been told. I mean, clearly it's supposed to be explaining it to the stupid people in the audience, but oh God, it was so painful when she literally repeats what the angel has just told her. This is a typical Chibbers thing. The unnecessary exposition when, we get it. We literally just got told what's happening and now you're explaining what's happening again. It was nice to see Yaz actually use some of her police training and appear to have a bit of personality. Dan's literally a passenger. The Bell and Vinder stuff, who knows where that's going. It's not really developed. The main story hasn't really developed. We still don't know what Azure and Swarm are doing. So the Division want the Doctor back. Who knows why the Division want the Doctor back? I'm sure some point someone will explain it. Again, there are no answers to anything in this episode. As a standalone episode, if you wipe out all of the bullshit, you get rid of Bell, you get rid of Vinder, and you get rid of the Division crap, it's a good standalone episode. But all of that stuff drags it down. Obviously, Jodie drags it down. But yeah, we're kind of the 4th episode in, and I'm still no clearer on what anything actually means. The Division being after the Doctor, that's brand new. Where's that suddenly come from? Why are the Division after the Doctor? The Division let the Doctor go. I'm presuming what happened is Ruth's Doctor did the last mission. They made her into a baby, and then she grew up to become William Hartnell's Doctor. Fucking hate that stuff. So all of a sudden they want her back, but the Time Lords have been destroyed. Apparently we turns out the Division basically recruit every alien species everywhere ever. Black Ops for the Time Lords. We're 4 episodes in and we don't have any answers. Just more questions and more stuff. More people being introduced who don't mean anything. As I say, I think it was one of the better episodes of Chibbers Run, though, as usual, that's not saying a lot. Now, just a quick reminder that my comic Marked, a 228-page graphic novel, is available from Indiegogo. The link is in the description below. I'd love your support. Thank you very much, and peace out.